Now, the first report on the effects of Donald Trump's trade war has come in, and it's not good news. Now, according to a report from economists at the Federal Reserve Board, Donald Trump's tariffs have been an unmitigated disaster for the sector that they were supposed to help. So now, let me give you this some snippets of this report written by Aaron Flan and Justin Pierce. These are two senior economists at the Federal Reserve's Industrial Output section. So now they say, quote, the first comprehensive estimates of the trade war's effect on American manufacturers shows that the tariffs have hurt the industry more than they have helped. We find that U.S. manufacturing industries more exposed to tariff increases experience relative reductions in employment as a positive effect from import protection is offset by larger negative effects from rising input costs and retaliatory tariffs. So let me put that in plain English. The tariffs essentially gave a small boost to local manufacturers, right? Which was offset by larger negatives from the effects of rising costs and tariffs put out by China towards our goods. That's a retaliatory tariff, right? So whatever good, and there was a little bit of good from the tariffs, was overshadowed by the disaster. So now look, this is what a lot of people have been saying would happen. Look, you might have a small, decent impact, right? But you're going to end up hurting more than you are helping when you put these tariffs up. So now, that would be maybe acceptable if you had a plan, right? But when you don't have a plan, this is what happens. Basically, you end up getting stuck in a situation where you have to concede. Okay, it turns out the tariffs didn't exactly work. Let's try something else. And then, of course, you give China the upper hand, or whatever country you're negotiating with, an upper hand on trade negotiations. Now, that is something that Donald Trump will never do, give another country the upper hand, or give anyone else the upper hand by conceding. This is not, look, I guess on issues that he doesn't really care too much about, sure, he'll concede on those. But when it comes to trade, a negotiation, the very thing that he says, I'm the greatest at, I can negotiate all sorts of deals, the best deals, the greatest deals. No, he's never going to give up on these tariffs, which means you're going to have continued economic damage as long as Donald Trump's president. It's a disaster, like I said. Now, what are the consequences of the policies in more detail? Well, according to the report, retaliatory tariffs imposed by China and other countries in response to U.S. tariffs have put U.S. firms at a disadvantage in those markets. As a result, employment in manufacturing had fallen and consumer prices have increased. Less jobs, more job losses, higher prices. That's what you get. And again, it's higher prices for consumers, which is exactly what we were saying was going to happen as a result of this ham-fisted, boneheaded policy. Look, now, the jury's out for long term. And look, I say that because, in a way, if you use tariffs strategically, you might be able to get something done. You might be able to use that as a leverage to get some people to the table, right? But that's only if you have a good strategy and a clear objective. President Trump has neither of those things. Trump makes rash decisions based on what he sees on TV with no actual long-term goal or plan to get results. And so this is the result that we have. A trade war that has devastated manufacturers, farmers, and other industries. I've given you, I've shown you a lot of Midwest farmers, right, that are really, really angry about Donald Trump. Some even saying, I'm not going to vote for him. These are Republicans. These are Midwest conservatives who voted with Donald Trump or voted for Donald Trump and said, yes, let's MAGA. And then later on said, oh my God, what are you doing? I mean, look, do you guys happen to notice that things are a little bit more expensive now? Because again, that's one of the results. When stuff gets more expensive for retailers, they will end up passing that cost into you, and that's exactly what happened, thanks to the tariffs. Now, some studies have found that American companies which engaged in trade with China also saw lower stock returns and higher default risk. So, wonderful. That's been fantastic for everybody. Now, let me give you a quote here from ProPublica reporter Lydia Topilis. She says, quote, "It's been a lot of anecdotal evidence about how tariffs are behind the manufacturing slump that we are currently in. Now the Federal Reserve proves it, finding that the trade war is hurting the sector it was ostensibly supposed to help. The White House would say it takes a while for supply chains to adjust, and manufacturers will recover as they find alternative input sources. Also, theoretically, mounting pressure will eventually force the Chinese to knuckle under in a way that will rebalance global trade." So, now, that's what the White House says. Now we look at the reality. There is a lack of any of that. Trump vastly underestimated the Chinese, likely because he has no idea what he's doing. He's not a very smart person. There is no impending trade deal with China. There's no text, no draft, even though he says we're very, very close to a new deal. Where's the text of it then? Where's the draft? Where's something concrete that you can point to and see? No, this is just like the North Korean debacle, where there is no evidence of any sort of deal, and there will be no deal at the end, and we will continue to get shafted. And that really kind of sums up our experiences with Donald Trump. A lot of empty promises, a lot of shafting, and a lot of pain for regular working people. This very same people who voted enthusiastically for him in 2016 and unfortunately may still enthusiastically vote for him in 2020. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.